Okay, I think you will be able to hear me now. Hello, everybody. Uh, I need you to give me sharing rights, Ina, so that I can share my
You do
screen.
have them.
It says, okay, rights, one moment. Okay. I'm still searching for my presentation, so if you could kindly give me a second.
No problem.
Um,
No problem. Our participants are really active and enthusiastic, and they're saying hello to you, which means that they remember you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, I've got the presentation. Do let me know if you can see it properly. It should appear in the presenter's mode in a moment. This connection is not ideal, but I hope that you can see it well now.
Yeah.
Excellent. So the final thing I would like to do is set up my chat window so I can talk to you guys. So give me one more second and I will be all yours. All right. Okay. I think I am ready with luck. Can I just say that I was able to watch a little bit of Monica's presentation, and I was, as always, really inspired and humbled by her wisdom. She is a wonderful teacher, isn't she? And it shows every time I have a chance to listen to her. I would also like to congratulate Ina and the rest of the team on the way that they've put this day together, because I think it's the idea of starting with higher order thinking skills is a fantastic way into the second session, my humble little slot. So I hope that you will find both of them coherent and useful. Before I start properly, I mean, thank you for all the wonderful greetings in the chat. I keep seeing people saying hello. It's absolutely delightful to be able to talk to you guys again, even though, of course, I would love to be there in person and work with you the way we used to in the good old days. I do hope and pray that before too long, we can all resume normal activity and normal support for you. I am desperate to be back and work with you guys. Speaking of being back, I have a little confession to make. I am actually not doing this from my Warsaw office, nor from my home. I am actually finishing my short pre-Easter holiday in Spain. So I'm doing this from a hotel lobby. And I'm saying this, but, the hotel manager has been incredibly nice and gave me permission to do this from the lobby. But in case there is any kind of external noise, I hope you will forgive me. This was the only way, to marry the two, and Ina kindly agreed to do it like this. We also have a backup recording, do we not, Ina? So in case something, heaven forbid, goes wrong, you will not miss the session, because it's already pre-recorded for you as well. Okay, so no more introductions, no more apologies. Let's kick off properly. Now, the topic, I hope that you still remember that this initial word that you can now see on the slide in the title is supplemented with another phrase. Do you still remember what it is? So it's drill. Can you remind me in the chat? Drill was there was my complete title, drill with something. I'm waiting. Drill with a thrill. Thank you very much. Yes. Now, unless your students are very different from the ones that I have been working with, or the ones who I've been observing taught by other teachers, when it comes to drilling, they are not immediately excited. Are yours like that? When you tell your students that you're about to do a revision session and there is probably a test coming up, most of them, nah, not immediately thrilled, right? The reason, of course, is that drilling has kind of developed a very bad name for itself. It's very often associated with boredom, monotony, having to do things over and over again. And it's really a shame because in view of everything we now know about the science of learning anything, but learning a foreign language in particular, systematic, smart repetition is absolutely fundamental to long-term success. So in a sense, drill we must. However, and this is the point of this session, what I would like to persuade you of is that we can be indeed a lot smarter than we perhaps used to be. And the drilling, Natalia says drilling is hard work. Exactly. That's the kind of prototypical picture that any learner associates with drilling, and perhaps a teacher as well, because, you know, we as teachers, of course, are also former learners. So what I would like to offer to you is a way to look at drilling which overcomes the traditional way of doing it, the one associated with pain, okay, without any thrill at all. So to kind of put this in perspective, I would like to give you a bit of a joke, but it really isn't a joke. It sort of describes the situation that I was in as a former learner. You know, when I was a learner of English last century, or last millennium, in fact, and I wanted to do well, if I ever approached my teacher, they would always give me a version of this slide in way of instruction. They would always say, well, if you want to remember something for longer, there are those 3 classic R's of remembering. The first R is repeat. You know, repeat. You just have to repeat a lot. But there's also a second R. Can you guess what the second R was? Yes, Olga says revise, but in fact it's just a synonym of the second R, which is also repeat. Absolutely, Olga. Yes. And now I would be very surprised if you did not get that third R, because there's a third R as well. Of course, it's repeat some more. Yeah. So repeat, repeat, repeat. And how do we tell a good student from the rest? Well, a good student is one that repeats more than other students, right? Those are the classic R's of remembering. And, you know, there is nothing wrong with repetition as such. On the contrary, yeah, it's a very useful thing to do. However, we also know from the current perspective, the current science of learning, that it's not a complete picture. And why not? Well, let me give you another little joke. Again, a version of those 3 R's of remembering. So imagine a hypothetical classroom in which a teacher, the one standing in front of the blackboard in this photograph, says something like this: use a word 10 times and then it shall be yours for life. Okay? Well, that's all very well, but at the back of the room is sitting a smart-ass student who says, yeah, right. Good one. Use a word 10 times and it shall be yours for life. Yeah, well, you see, it does not work with women, and it does not quite work with foreign language learning. As I said, repetition of itself is certainly not harmful, but we can and should in my view, do a lot better than that. In other words, I'm not being sexist here. I'm just trying to illustrate this. Of course, it could be a man saying, or a woman saying exactly the same thing about a man. It's not to do with gender, it's to do with the quality of repetition or quality of revision in general. And this is why I call this session Drill with a Thrill. In other words, apart from just quality, I would also like to add, quantity, I made this wrong. Apart from just quantity of revision, I would also like to add quality of revision. And that's where the thrill comes in, okay? The way I understand this thrill specifically is that those revision activities should also have the added value of being surprising, genuinely surprising to the learner. In fact, Monica gave a few examples that would certainly qualify here. And secondly, they should genuinely engage the learner's brain in the process of revision, okay? They should not just be rote, monotonous repetition, okay? In fact, they also have a third important quality that I hope you are going to like, which is that they should be minimum or zero preparation for you. In my view, we as teachers work way too much, okay? In the sense, especially, that we prepare a lot of the good stuff for the student, while the student very often takes not enough time to take advantage of what we have prepared. And I need those proportions to be changed. Am I making sense? I hope I am. Okay, so in a moment, I'll start showing you activities. There will be activity after activity where I need you to remember about these three things and check them. Are they really surprising? Okay, do they really engage the learner? And last but not least, do they require very little or zero preparation for you? Okay, now, quantity and quality understood, as I said. The thrill understood, as I just said. And in case you are thinking, how does he know that? Well, the answer is, I'm not that smart. I have observed a lot of great teachers in action, like Monica, but I've also read quite a lot of stuff, which I think provides enough solid grounding for that, okay? But these books that, you will receive a complete recording of this and also the slides from this session. So I just want to point you to a couple of these books here. The one in the bottom right-hand corner by Nick Bilbrough is called Memory Activities for Language Learning. And this one is specifically developed for language teachers in mind. The others, as you can see, some of them, or one of them at least, is in Polish. But I just want to persuade you that there have been a lot of exciting developments in recent years into how it is that a brain really gets to memorize something for longer. And in particular, the book that's in the middle of the slide called How We Learn is particularly interesting in that it is almost specifically geared at the teenager's brain, if you like, right? At the sorts of ways that a typical teenager thinks. So if you are a real teacher of teenagers, get this book. And if you have a son or a daughter or a cousin, you can give them a fantastic gift if you get them to take advantage of this book, because it really is quite exciting. Now, of this whole idea of science of learning, I would like to select one quote from a PhD dissertation of this person in the bottom of the slide, because to me, it summarizes everything that we can do in practice in order to set all those great developments into the science of learning in motion. And as you can see, the quote says that learning relies heavily both on recycling and on representing of language items, and therefore on re-noticing of them by the learner. Now, I would like you to perform a quick reading comprehension exercise on this quote, and tell me what three words are absolutely the most important in this quote. Which three words? I'll take a sip of water. Recycling, definitely. Yes, somebody has been very clever and notice that it's another three R's. Absolutely. Yes, recycling, re-noticing, and the last one is, of course, representing. Absolutely. So these three words actually are going to organize the whole of the rest of my presentation. I will show you how recycling, representing, and re-noticing can be done with this extra thrill. Are you ready? Are you ready for this action? I hope you are. Thanks for the pluses. Okay, so start the thing with recycling with a thrill. The first activity that I would like to offer is one which is one of my absolute favorite. I've learned it originally from a great colleague, Karolina Kotorowicz-Jasińska, and the lovely thing about this activity is that it can be based on any list of vocabulary items. I will give you one example of such a list, one that we all have worked with 5 million times, haven't we? In this case, it's a list of irregular verbs, but it could also be a list of words at the end of any unit of work from the course book that you are currently working with. Okay, so I'm just using irregular verbs as a good example. Okay, so what would we normally do with such a list, typically, or last century when I was a student? Well, when I was a student, if there was a test coming up, I knew that I just had to sit on this list and try and remember all the irregular verb forms. But in the 21st century, I can offer my students a slightly better way to approach this list, okay? And the instruction that will unlock this activity is the following. Fasten your seatbelts. It reads, which 7 do you not want for me to put on our upcoming vocabulary test? How do you like this instruction? Which 7 do you not want? Okay, Olga says she loves this. Okay, but let's talk about this a little more, shall we? Because it illustrates the principle behind what I am to show you this afternoon really very well. First of all, Lida says pretty good. Well, I'll try to persuade you that it's actually a lot more than just pretty good, okay? Why is it better? Because you see, first of all, imagine you get your students to work in pairs, okay? They work in pairs and they have to choose the 7. Which 7 will they choose? What kind of 7 will they choose? The easy ones or the difficult ones? Well, of course, they will choose the difficult ones, absolutely. Why not? Why the difficult ones? Because they are smart, right? If you tell them that they can make the workload lighter, they will take advantage of it, right? Is it surprising to them? I hope it is, if you give it to them for the first time, okay? Eliminate the 7 most difficult ones. Will they be engaged? I am pretty sure they will be. Okay, all the groups of teenagers I've worked with and I've shown this activity to were really surprised. Teacher telling them not to study the 7. But notice, and here is the wonderful trick, in order for them to choose the difficult 7, what do they have to do? Well, of course, they have to look at the list very carefully, right? And take important decisions. It's actually higher order thinking, isn't it? Okay, and I'm only starting. If you think this is the end of the activity, it's actually just the beginning, because you see, the moment the pairs are ready with the 7, you tell them, okay, have you got your 7? Brilliant. So now get into groups of 4. And repeat the exercise. Renegotiate. Are you with me? And again, unless yours are very different from mine, the original lists that each pair have got are going to be different, right? So they will have to quarrel and choose the new 7, right? Brilliant. That means another round of recycling, doesn't it? Okay. Can I just say, you remember I told you that my activities need to be surprising, they need to engage the student, and also they need to be involve very little preparation for you, correct? So I would like to ask you now, as those students are doing that, what are you doing? Well, I hope the answer is you're doing absolutely nothing. You are standing, yeah, with your arms folded, maybe monitoring. Yes, of course. I mean, I'm joking, of course, Olga. Yeah, but generally, you see what I mean? You are just giving them a ready-made list. You haven't done any work on that list. It's sitting in that book, right? As Monica said, all you need is a good book and a head, right? The book is there. They need to look at this with interest, engagement, right? They are processing this once, they are processing it twice in groups of 4. And then if you're super naughty, you can get them into groups of 8 again, right? Then they would need a spokesperson or 2, correct? Okay, and revise for the 3rd time. And notice by the end of this, it will take quite a bit of time. They will have looked at the list so many times that you might as well not give them that vocabulary test. But I suggest that you do. Because, of course, if you do not give them the vocabulary test without, the items that they have unselected, they will feel cheated. Okay, so don't do that, right? Give them the test, remove the ones that they've agreed on, and they are probably all going to get very good grades, which is the point of revision anyway, isn't it? Okay, so I hope that you like the first one, because there is a lot more. Okay, the second one is, in a sense, similar. Exactly, Valerie. I'm quite with you. If you don't give them that test, next time you try that sort of activity, they will not believe you, which is why you have to follow through. Yes, I am absolutely 100% behind you here. Okay, second activity, a little less naughty, but equally as important and equally as useful, is this one. It's called learner made categories. What do I mean by this? Again, it's based on a ready-made vocabulary list. I'll give you one example. Something like this. In this case, I am taking it from a Polish version of a textbook. So there is translation into Polish. I am sure you could easily find such lists in your current coursebook translated into Hungarian, into Ukrainian. That's in a sense irrelevant, and the list itself is not particularly exciting, is it? It's just a list of furniture in this case. Now, how do I make this list a bit more surprising to the student and engaging while you do not have to prepare anything extra? The answer is, again, smart instruction. Okay, in this case, the instruction is the following. How many subcategories in the items here can you possibly think of? You can run this as an individual activity or as a pair work or small group activity where they compete against one another. Fine, okay? But again, look at just how interesting this immediately becomes, because it's potentially open-ended, isn't it? Can you give me any subcategories here? Any subcategory? Yes, for instance, colors. Give me more. Yeah, different colors. Yes. Types of rooms. Yes. So, yes, exactly. So which of these items can go into the kitchen? Which of them can go into a bedroom, etc.? Which of them are soft? Which of them are hard? Which of them, yes, small. You're doing it beautifully. And notice all the wonderful categories or subcategories that are now flashing through the chat. I hope you can take a look at the chat as well. Is extra vocabulary, isn't it? Extra vocabulary related to those words. So not only are they reclassifying and regenerating and revising the vocabulary, but at the same time, yes, which of these clothes can you wear in the summer? Brilliant. I mean, that sort of thing, yes. Which of these can you use there? Which of them, etc. Fabrics, materials, shapes, sizes. The list is endless, right? On any fixed list of vocab, okay? And notice, every time they come up with a special sub-list means that they have looked with interest and engagement, and therefore they are helping their brains retain this information for longer. True? Have you had to do any extra work in order to run this activity? Tell me, have you? Did you have to do anything? Extra handout? No. Yeah? Exactly. Thank you. Absolutely nothing. All you do is you activate a list like this, okay? And if you're thinking just this one, no, of course, any list. Look, I'm taking this one from Gateway, where in this particular case, it's already organized into groups, but that doesn't stop us, does it? Look at, for instance, this personality box at the top, yeah? If you give it to teenagers, you will get subcategories like things I love in a friend. Things I hate in another person. You see, very teenage subcategories. Brilliant. Notice any such category, again, will mean more and more language being produced and more interest. Okay? I hope you like it. And it's a completely universal technique which you can further modify, but it will retain the key principles: surprising, engaging, and no preparation for you guys. My third recycling idea is borrowed from a wonderful book which was not written with English language teachers in mind, but it's full of potentially brilliant ideas. Are you familiar with that book called Wreck Your Journal? Wreck Your Journal. It has got a great Polish translation. Has it been translated into Ukrainian? It doesn't matter if it has or it hasn't. I'll just give you a couple of ideas. Yeah, it does exist in Ukrainian. Okay, but I recommend that you look at this book with a fresh eye after the session from the perspective of revision, recycling, and higher order skills. But I'll just give you two ideas which are already adapted from it by another language teacher, a great colleague of mine, okay? Look, this is a page for 5-letter words. A page for 5-letter words. And my question to you is, where does this page function? Where would the student have that kind of page? Alexei says that he has got a copy of that book in front. Yes, in a notebook, but specifically at the end of a notebook, right? Those pages which typically remain empty. They are sitting there to be activated, okay? So imagine that you start a vocabulary project where a student needs to revisit that page, let's say every week, scan the notes that they have taken or pages, the relevant pages in the course book, okay, and find 5-letter words only. Good one? The rest is up to the student, how they design it, which colors they will use, which font size, whether they write vertically or horizontally, how they choose. Okay? Yes, it's unusual again. So it's an unusual vocabulary project. It will probably engage the student because notice after a few weeks, they can compare, boast with ideas that they have had about how they have presented that vocabulary. Engaging, yes. And how much work would that take for you guys? Yeah, that's what we love, don't we? Okay, and of course, this is just one such vocabulary project. I wouldn't run it forever because it will become tedious. But after a few weeks, you can easily think of another reason for them to keep scrolling and scanning those pages in their notebooks, correct? It could be any other parameter. You know what? If you have a nice class of teenagers, you could actually ask them to invent a new parameter, one that they would like to use in order to continue scanning vocabulary. Good one? So you involve them even more, you do absolutely nothing, and then after a few weeks, this is very important, you do have a session where they all go to the end of their notebooks and then have a chance to compare, contrast, and revise some more, as a matter of fact. Okay, now, in case you are thinking it's all about vocabulary, no, it isn't. And this is the first activity which has to do with recycling grammar with a thrill. Okay, I hope you're going to love it as much as I do. First of all, let me explain to you and see if you can get it. Okay, here is the first example of this activity. Hyenas. Have you ever noticed anything suspicious? Now, dies. Do you eat sausage? Now, might. May I go home tomorrow? Have you noticed the principle yet? What is the principle? How does this activity work? What is the connection between? Yes, absolutely. The first letters of the words on the left are the capital letters making up the words on the left are the first letters of every word in each of these sentences. This is why it's called grammar acronyms. Okay, now let me play with this in case it's not entirely clear. This is how I would explain this to the students if needed, as you can see. So nice and colorful. You may or may not include the names of the constructions. This is not important, but I've just done this for you so that it's a nice presentation page. Okay, this is how you explain the principle. Okay, this is the, if you like, the 2% of involvement for the teacher. But I hope you agree that you can do this on a blackboard or a whiteboard with just, colored pen, and no big deal really. Okay, now comes the activation part. So do you remember what were the original sentences? What was this present perfect question that can be acronymized as hyenas? Can you remind me? Hyenas. Have you what? Have you ever noticed? Yes. And what was the end? Have you ever noticed anything special? Okay. Yes. Okay. Suspicious, another possibility. You see, you have already discovered an extra bonus, which is that, of course, the moment they start doing that, there will be further options, not just, the rigid one correct answer. What about the second? Dies. Dies. Do you eat sausage? Yes. And might? Might is what? And might is, Natalia likes it, very good. Yes, might is for what? May I go home tomorrow? Okay. Now, I hope that you've already noticed something else wonderful, which is that the actual sentences are really plain, are really nothing special. They are the sorts of sentences we keep using in our grammar exercises. You see what I mean? Yeah? They do not necessarily come with a lot of thrill, but we know they are very useful to stabilize a certain grammatical construction, right? So, look, now comes the exciting part, okay? And it's over to you. Could you form a polite request whose acronym is cities? Cities. Can you try in the chat? Cities. What's the first word, do you think? Polite request. I already saw, could I try? Very good. Yes, very clever. Could I try? And in a moment, you will see how. Can I take? Very good. Can I take? Or could I take? Could I touch? Brilliant. And notice all of these attempts or partial attempts are precisely the kind of recycling that you want your students to do, right? While they are trying and their brains are working like crazy, what do? Well, again, you're just, see what I mean? And I'll show you what the first one is, because of course the point is not for you to guess it, but to understand just how powerful this activity is. Could I take it easy, sir? Another very everyday, obvious sentence. You see? Okay. I can see people are still adding suggestions in the chat. Very good. Can I try it elsewhere, sir? Brilliant. Lubov, really good. Okay. Probably not very teenage, but a great bilingual speaker. Okay, watch. Present continuous question. Try the second one. Present continuous question. Watch. When are they coming home? When are they coming home? That's a verb. When are they coming home? Yeah, that certainly works. What are the cat hoping for? Nah. What are they cooking here? What are they cooking here? Absolutely. Yes. Why are they calling him? Why are they crying here? Brilliant. Okay, you see what I mean? Each of these sentences is a brilliant everyday example of the target construction. But coming up with them, retrieving them becomes so much more engaging and surprising while you are doing absolutely nothing. Just looking at learning in action. Okay, now look at Himalayas, present continuous, Himalayas. Go for Himalayas. You're too good with watch. Try Himalayas. He is making a large, okay. Present continuous statement, Himalayas. Do we have a winner yet? Ina, you can try this too if you want. Himalayas. You're still on the previous example. We are trying cooking ham. Okay, but this is still the first one. He is climbing the mountain. There is an M after I. He is definitely, but what's the next one? He is M. I'm giving you a more. He's making a little, okay, that's another great attempt, Valerie. You see? So that's what I'm trying to persuade you of. He is making a large amount of yellow sandwiches. He is making a large amount of yellow. I'm not sure whether it's quite correct, but it's a brilliant attempt. You're too good, guys. You're obviously having fun. That's brilliant. Well, my answer is really basic. Look, he is meeting, you see, he is meeting a lecturer at your aunt's school. Okay? Again, all I'm trying to say is the actual vocabulary is irrelevant here, right? You are trying out with various patterns, right? Basic level vocab. And Hutch used to, I have to speed myself up a little bit, but I hope you get the principle. Hutch, as an example of used to construction, used to, yes, create hats, absolutely, clean houses, etc. Okay? Right. I can see you're already saying unexpected, yeah. Surprising, engaging, you agree? You are engaged. So would the teenagers be? It's a real puzzle, no obvious one single correct answer, and requires next to no preparation for you. Okay. Now, how do those acronyms come about? That's another great bonus, which is that you could actually set it up as a homework project. Okay. Get them to scan the existing sentences in the grammar exercises that they have done over the past couple of weeks. Okay. And try to form some acronyms and bring them for you on separate pieces of paper. Okay. Then you will have even more examples to play with for weeks and weeks on end. And this is a perfect 2, 3, 5 minute warming up activity if you need a change of pace during a lesson. Okay. I see you like it, and I do as well. I mean, immodestly, I think it's a great, great activity to activate any set of grammatical constructions. Okay, so this was the first set, a set of activities to do with recycling, where you notice we did not actually get the students to change the language itself, right? We just got them to really recycle it. Now, I have a slightly different genre, if you like, which is representing with a thrill. Notice the hyphen, represent. So not just present, but represent. Show the language that you want to remember in a new light. How would you do that? Well, I have a couple of ideas again, which I think are all brilliant, and they are borrowed from great colleagues of mine. The first one is from Gosia Kobierzycka, and she invented this beautiful collocation flower idea. Collocation flower. What's a collocation flower? Well, as the name suggests, it's a flower where the petals are the collocates, okay? And, you know, the pivot is the word they all collocate with. I'll give you an example. Look at this. Make, king size, get into, flower, and time for. What is the word that they all collocate with? What word would go into the center? Of course, Valerie, it would be, or Olga, it's the word bed. Okay? So as you can see, the idea is to get students to actively notice those collocations and re-notice them, in fact, by presenting them in this beautiful visual form. Now, a couple of navigation points about this activity. How would you train your students? I would suggest that you start by giving them a good pivot word, like sandwich in this case, sandwich, okay? And you get them first to think of various things that the word sandwich would collocate with. And if they can think of any, of course, they put it in the flower, on the petals. Okay, so, you know, sandwich, like what? Like ham, like club sandwich, like box, sandwich box, bite into sandwich, make sandwich. You see what I mean? These have been chosen specifically to show you that when you start doing it, there will be interesting issues, such as, for instance, teacher, teacher. Do they all have to be adjectives? Przymiotniki in Polish, or whatever the equivalent in Ukrainian is. And this is the moment where we need to negotiate and establish certain rules, right? Do you want them all to be adjectives? Can they be other things as well, like verbs or verb phrases? So, you know, you see what I mean? It's all to do with how advanced or not the group is, what kind of material. Yeah, absolutely, Natalia. It all depends, but it depends on you and the way we negotiate it with the group. The important thing is that they understand that there is a word that binds them all, right? And then it's up to the group and the teacher to decide what sorts of words there would be. Okay, do you like it? I just want to say that, of course, the fact that it's called collocation flower does not mean that they always have to do these things via a flower, right? It could easily be another visual object of the relevant kind. For instance, a sun with rays. Are you with me? Anything that has got, you know, or a bicycle hub with the spikes, okay? Or anything else like a spidergram, you know, anything else visual that they like. And in fact, they could choose the visual shape themselves for another round of this kind of activity in a few weeks' time, so that it does not become monotonous. You see what I mean? If they were to make flowers all year long, it would become yet another tedious revision activity. Okay? Yeah, any map template, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it could be a fridge, you know, where there's a central shelf and all the others. It doesn't matter, really. I mean, teenagers, I'm sure if you tell them that there's a challenge, they have to come up with another such category, they will be better than we. You see what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Another recycling idea where the need to represent, remember, represent information, one that, again, I am sure you're going to like, is this one. It's called a word formation haircut. How'd you like this one? Okay. As you can see, all the hairs here, all the hairs happen to be nouns with suffixes. Yeah. So you have things like discussion, a visitor, different suffixes, examination, interviewer. Okay. Neat, isn't it? Are you thinking you have to design this? No. You just have to show them an example, and you already have got an example from me. All you need to do is show them that slide. Okay? But the important thing here is that, again, it's the process that matters. Okay? So what would students need to do with this haircut? Well, I suggest that one way, if they have got a ready haircut like this, would be to treat the hairs as something which can be a hair, that is, it can be folded in the appropriate place. Look, isn't it brilliant? Take a quick look and tell me if you not love it. I think it's absolutely great, this. Because again, notice, in order for them to fold in the appropriate moment, they really need to think about where the stem finishes and when the suffix begins. Isn't it a brilliant way to materialize, visualize, and really fixate those suffixes in memory? Okay? All right. But the best part is that it shouldn't be us producing these things, you see? So for a vocabulary project, again, they need to scan the relevant portion of the textbook. You see what I mean? Okay, and find examples for another haircut that they prepare for another student. Are you with me? So again, you are just setting it up, telling them how to do it, and then sit back and do absolutely nothing. To paint a picture like this, anybody can do this. Post, colored cards, everybody can have. You do not have to provide any materials. You do not have to provide any extra work. All you do is you activate the relevant segment of your course book and off you go. Make sense? And if you like it, notice it does not have to be a haircut. It could be any other, again, visualization where, again, there's a centerpiece and the related ones, okay? And does it always have to be suffixes? No. It could also be, for instance, phrasal verbs. Or any other two-part combinations. Prefixes, absolutely. Yes. Okay, phrasal verbs, not verbs, words with prefixes of any kind. And again, you need to set up rules, right? Like they all need to be formed from verbs, or they can be formed from any part of speech. The important thing is, again, what does it do? It represents information which you introduced before. It is surprising to the student. It engages the brain, and it requires little or no preparation on your part. Okay? And last but not least, in this category, the category of representing, I would like to go back to grammar, okay, and give you yet another brilliant way to revise grammar with a thrill, re-notice and represent grammar with a thrill, okay? This is a secret code, as you can see, WUGOOB, WTTB, BHT, and HAS. Are you ready for rediscovering of the secret code? Okay, the secret code is this. He woke up, WU, okay? He, WU, woke up, and the GOOB, got out of bed. Next phase, he, WU, GOOB, and WTTB, went to the bathroom. He, WU, GOOB, WTTB, and BHT, brushed his teeth. And finally, he, WU, GOOB, WTTB, BHT, and HAS, had a shower. Nice? All gone. See? Now, before I show you the secret code again, just think about this for a second. Isn't it great that with this, they really re-notice a good set of sentences about daily routines in this case. It's very everyday, functional, useful, but not very exciting language. Okay? So this is how I get them to re-notice and represent this language. Make sense? any text that they already have got, any piece of text that's already sitting in the book. You see what I mean? You just want to reactivate, okay? And let me just check. Woke up, you see? Yeah, like this. Okay, and then you end up with, he woke up, got out of bed, went to the bathroom, brushed his teeth, and had a shower. And notice that once they understand the principle, which is not difficult to demonstrate, you can get them to produce secret codes for one another, right? Take a piece of text, turn it into a secret code, give it to a fellow student, get the student to try and to recode that code. See? Perfect revision. Surprising, exciting, zero preparation for you. Yeah. Okay. And in the final 5 minutes, I would like to give you, again, 2 or 3 ideas on remember? Yeah, yes. Representing. And this one has to do with, again, any vocabulary list, but this time, as you can see, it's a thematic list: head, mouth, shoulders, belly, foot, etc., parts of the body. Now, the way I used to record this as a student, because I didn't have any alternatives, was I simply copied them from the Blackboard and put in translations into Polish, right? Nothing wrong with that. And it works for quite a few learners, but it also does not work for quite a few learners. And besides, even for those who, accept the vertical list, they would probably like others as well. So look at this alternative. Okay, look in particular at the main silhouette in the center, which is this head, arm, back, leg, and foot. It's not just a pretty picture. It's a lot of decisions for how selected vocabulary parts are to be revised. And if you are thinking, well, this is a published example, my students could never do that, fasten your seatbelts. I'll show you what a student of mine did a few years ago when they were presented with a model of this activity. Look. Again, I am showing you this as examples of what can be done if you unlock your students' creativity and you show them that it matters. Of course, this kind of representing will make no impact if you do it once a year. But if you culminate every unit of work, you finish a unit in your course book and you get your students to design one extra page with selected words from that unit, which they need to turn into an image built with these words, you'll be amazed what kind of solutions they will come up with. Okay? Imagine a city built of words. Imagine a room built of words. Imagine a planet built of words, a wardrobe built of words, etc., etc., etc. Okay? And in the final few minutes, I would like to just touch upon the idea of renoticing. Renoticing, as the name suggests, again, will not involve any visual presentation, but it will really drive the idea of retrieving information which students already have. So imagine, for instance, a blank substitution table like this one here, with a blank column for verb, a blank column for adjective, and with the word dress given. Okay? What do you do? Well, you work with the students now, and you say, well, how many adjectives as a group can you think of in the column adjective? How many adjectives can you think of in the column verb? Okay? Look, these are not my examples. Remember, I only use them for demonstration purposes. They all come from the students. Okay? And the group feels that they are coherent and whole. Yeah? And then they can start building sentences out of those phrases, right? If you think it's only about a dress, no, it isn't. If you have the proverbial 2 or 3 minutes in any lesson to fill, I suggest to you, you just nick a good phrase from the ones that you've been using with them over the past couple of weeks, and you get them to build the missing bits, like those here. And you will end up with something like this in time. Okay? The important thing is, again, you set it up, they do the hard work, you do absolutely nothing, and they do all the revision for you. Okay, my time is up, so I will skip the final dialogue rejumbling with your permission. It will be available on the slide as well, so you can take a look at this. It's a very self-explanatory principle. I just want to finish by summarizing a little bit. So I hope you still remember that we started out from those 3 R's of remembering, right? 3 R's of remembering. Repeat, repeat, repeat. We can do a lot better. I hope that I've showed you this, right? The first new R is what? Remember? The first R is, you're getting them all. Yes, the first one is recycle with a thrill, of course. The second is represent with a thrill. And the last one is re-notice with a thrill. I hope that I've demonstrated what I mean by thrill enough. Surprise them, engage them, and work very little. Remember? And even though we have not got a license to kill, after all, we are modern humanistic educators, we arguably have got something even better, which is a license to drill. So I suggest that we use this smartly from now on. And this is my wish for you. Thank you very much for being such an active part of this session. And if you want to stay in touch, one way to do this is to write me an email and tell me how you liked it. It's simply grzegorz.spiewak@macmillan.pl. Thank you very much once again, and over to Ina.